So let's take a deep breath together. I think we can all exhale now that the election is over. We went through last week and we made it through the week. So it's a time to exhale for all of us, I think. And I don't think that I realized that until after it was over, that I think we'd all been kind of holding our breath. I know that I had been. And so here we are. I had the opportunity to spend election day at the New Vision Center peace meditation, all day peace meditation that they held. And it was a wonderful way to spend the day. I didn't get caught up in the TV and I didn't get caught up in a lot of the drama and all that was going on. And it was a really, really, really good time to just turn within and to just be in a place of recognizing the oneness of life. And so here we are today, having made it through the week, and I'm inviting you to just take a breath as we just look at where we are right now. And one of the things that I want to say for us is that the seatbelt light is on. The seatbelt light is now on. And even though the election is over, the seatbelt light is on because there's still turbulence going on. There's still turbulence ahead. So we keep our seatbelts fastened and we continue to move through this time in our lives. We continue on this journey to unity, this journey of unity. And that's what I'm encouraging us to do. Our theme for the month is a litany of Thanksgiving. And we usually think of Thanksgiving during the month of November because that's when the holiday falls. But this is something for us to do each and every day of our lives. Just develop a litany of Thanksgiving, a litany of things to be thankful for. And that's why the topic today is in everything, in everything. In everything, give thanks. In everything, give thanks. In every situation, give thanks. In every situation, every circumstance, every event, we find something to be grateful for because gratitude, thankfulness opens our hearts. It opens our hearts. It's very difficult to have a closed heart and a closed mind when you are in the process of giving thanks. When you're looking for things to be thankful for, when you are just being grateful for everything, then our hearts open. And as our hearts open, then we begin to heal that sense of separation that we have. And that's what we are experiencing today, is a sense of separation. And the only thing that ever needs to be healed is our sense of separation from God. And when we are feeling separate from God, we start to feel separate from each other. And when we hear so much about how our country is so divided today, and we hear a lot about division and divisiveness, it's that sense of separation that we're buying into, that sense of separation that we get caught up in. And so I'm inviting you to just take a deep breath and just open your heart and just find something to be grateful for in everything. In everything, be thankful. And as our hearts open, we begin to heal that sense of separation and we begin to walk through this journey together. And this journey to unity, that's what we really want to look at, because there are more things that unite us than divide us. There are more things, regardless as to what we hear on the news or what we hear from politicians or what we hear just on the waves, on the ethers, about divisiveness and division. There are more things that unite us than separate us. And so I invite us to really look at unity, to really start to look at unity everywhere, to really start to see unity everywhere. Unity, just recognizing that there's but one life. There's but one life. There's but one power. There's but one presence. There's but one mind. There's but one. And that one is my very life. That one is the life of each of us. And so when we really come back to that basic truth that we know that there is only one life and each of us is a part of that one life. Each of us is made in the image and likeness and out of that one. Each of us is made in the image and likeness and out of that one. We are all a part of the one, yet we're not all the same. And to that, I always say, thank God that we're not all the same. Thank God that we're not all the same. We are each unique emanations of the divine. We are each unique individualizations of the divine. And when we keep that in mind, that we are each unique, yet we are all a part of the one, then we can start to recognize that that there is this ground of unity that brings us all together, this ground of unity that's embedded with us, within our very DNA, this ground of unity that brings us together, that makes us all recognize that we are a part of the one. And so I invite you today to just begin to take a breath and just release that sense of separateness, that sense of separation, because we are not separated. We are separate beings, but we are not separated because we are part of the divine. And if there's only one life and we are each a part of that one life, then we have to be a part of each other. We have to be one with each other. And so that's the thing that I really want us to really keep in mind as we move through this time together. No matter what we hear, no matter what we see, no matter what the facts may be, we have to keep returning to the truth. We have to keep returning to the truth that there is but one life, and we are part of that one life. And that just like I'm a part of that one life, so are you, and so is everybody else. And that's the important thing for us to keep in mind as we go through this period. Because as I said, it's time to keep our seatbelts fastened, continue to dive deeper into your spiritual practice, continue to meditate more, continue to pray more, continue to give thanks more. Because Thanksgiving and gratitude is a part of our spiritual practice. And so continue to find a way to give thanks in everything, and continue to see unity everywhere. Continue to see unity everywhere. And Ernest Holmes says that the way to develop the consciousness of you, we cannot develop the consciousness of unity until we can see that what we are looking for is what we're looking with and what we're looking at. What we're looking for is what we're looking with. And so to look at unity, to look for unity, to see unity, we got to be looking with unity, with that sense of oneness, with that sense of connection, with that sense of being a part of the whole, and with the sense that we are all a part of the whole. And so as we walk through this time, even though there are differences, even though those differences have not changed and probably won't for a long time to come, even though there are differences, there has to be unity. There has to be a coming together. There has to be an acceptance of each other. You know, one of the things that the statistics that came up over the week, well, I guess it's not a statistic, but facts that came up over the past week with the election is that 74 million people voted for one person and 70 million people voted for the other person when it comes to the presidential race. And you know, that's a lot of folks. And that means that each one of us knows at least one person who voted differently from the way that we did, or who believes differently from the way that we do. But you know what? That just means that we have different beliefs, we have different priorities, we have different values, we have different ideas, we have different opinions. But it doesn't mean that we have to demonize each other. It doesn't mean that we have to be separate from each other. It doesn't mean that we have to move into tribal camps. It doesn't mean that we have to do any of that except to recognize that we are different, yet we are all one. And that is what is so important for us to do, that we are to keep in mind that we are all a part of the one. And so I'm inviting you again to just take a breath as we just look at how do we move through this time? How do we journey on this road to unity together? And I think there are a couple of things I want you to keep in mind, 3 things I want you to keep in mind. One of them is to find the commonalities, find common ground with other people, find common ground, because there's common ground for all of us. What do we have in common? Because as I said, there are more things that unify us than separate us. There are more things that unify us than divide us. So what are the things that we have in common? What are the things? We have to look for those things sometimes, because first of all, when we come, in particular when it comes to the political spectrum, when we come across people who believe differently than we are, who are on a different side of the political divide than we are, the first thing we want to do is to move into the them and us camp. The them and us camp. The other thing we want to do is to label them. We label each other. And so I'm inviting you, don't label each other. Don't label, because when we label people, then they start to act according to the label we've given them, because that's the eyes through which we see them, the way we've labeled them. And then we have an expectation that they're going to act a certain way, or they're going to do a certain thing, or that they think a certain way. And oftentimes this is about people we don't even know. And so I'm inviting us to not label. Let's don't label anybody. Let's don't label anybody. Let's just, as we come across people, as we see people, as we meet people, let's accept them, take them at face value, see them for who they are. Just see them. Just accept them for the way that they are appearing, without labeling. Without labeling. That is so important. And it's important for us not to label ourselves, because when we're labeling ourselves, then we are acting according to our labels of ourselves. We're acting according to whatever we think that label means. And so it's very, very important for us not to label. It is because once we start to label, we start oftentimes to get into demonizing. We get into the otherness. We get into all kinds of things when we start to label each other. Another thing you don't want to do is you don't want to make assumptions. Let's not make assumptions about people. Let's not make assumptions. Let's not look at somebody and make an assumption about them and how they live their lives, what their beliefs are, what their political persuasion is, whatever the case may be. It isn't necessary to make assumptions. We just meet each other where we are and move through our lives together the way that we can move through our lives together, without the labels, without the assumptions, without the expectation that a person is going to act a particular way because of who we think they are, or the assumptions that we've made about them. So it's really, really important that we find the common grounds. The common grounds. What are the commonalities that we have? We're all human. There are basic things that we all experience. There are basic things that we all want. There are basic things that are really important to all of us. Love is important to all of us. Recognition is important to all of us. Value, being valued, being appreciated is important to all of us. Being seen, being heard is something that is important to all of us. And there's so many things that I can't even name that are important to each one of us, no matter what, no matter where we are, no matter how we are appearing in the world. There are things that are basic. There are things that are basic to each one of us. And so I'm inviting you to open your heart and open your mind and find the common ground. Look through the eyes of unity for the unity that we want to experience. Look through the eyes of unity for the healing that we want to see happen, the healing of that sense of separation. Because that sense of separation really takes us off into all kinds of areas, all kinds of weeds that we don't want to be into at all. So let's just begin to find the common ground that we can really, really, really begin to appreciate about each other. And we begin to walk this road together, because that's what we're all doing. We're all in this life together. We're all in this life together. And the only way we can get through it is to walk it together, to walk it together, to walk it together. And as I said last week when I was quoting Martin Luther King, is that we have to all learn to live together as brothers, or we will perish together as fools. And that's something that we want to learn to live together. We want to learn to walk the road together. We want to heal this sense of separation. Now, I may make it sound easier than it really can be sometimes. Sometimes it can be not so easy to do this. And we have to keep in mind also that we have to give up our attachment to what healing looks like, because, healing is sometimes not pretty. Sometimes it's not easy. It's not pretty. Sometimes it gets a little yucky. And we have to keep that in mind also. And we keep moving toward the healing. We keep opening up for the healing. We keep opening up for how can we heal this sense of separation? How can I find common ground? Even though I don't like what I'm seeing, Ernest Holmes says, refuse to see the negative side of others. Ernest Holmes says, refuse to see the negative side of others. I think that's a big charge sometimes. It's a big charge sometimes, a big challenge to us sometimes, to refuse to see the negative side of others. And you know what? We can do that. We can do that. We have to make sure that what we're looking for, what we're looking at is what we're looking with. And if we're not looking with negativity, then we can start to see the positive side. We can start to see the light around others, just like we see the light within ourselves. We have to bring that light forward to look for what we want to see, which is healing, which is unity, which is oneness, the oneness of life. And, you know, after we find the common ground that we all share, then the thing for us to do is to, my notification went off and it just distracted me for a minute. But the thing for us to do is to, once we find the common ground, the thing for us to do is to just keep moving forward and keep moving forward, and then to learn to respect the right to choose. Learn to respect the right to choose. Respect the right to choose. We each have the right to choose. We each have the right to choose our own life. We each have a right to choose our own path. We each have a right to choose how we're going to be in this life, how we're going to live in this world, what our political persuasion will be, what our religious persuasion will be, or not to have any at all. We have the right to choose. And I always say that the right to choose is one of the greatest gifts that God gave us, was the right to choose. And just as I have the right to choose, then so do you. Just as I have the right to choose, then everyone has the right to choose. You know, life is like a big shoe store. You know, the shoes come in all sizes, all colors, all shapes, all styles. It's like a big shoe store. You can go and you can try on a pair. If you don't like those, you can try on another pair. If you don't like those, you can try on another pair. You can get them in each color that you want. You can get some with the toes in and with the heels out. You can get some all closed in. You can get all kinds of shoes. That's how life is. And so when I go into a shoe store, I have a right to choose the shoes that I like. When you go into a shoe store, you get a chance, you have a right to choose the shoes that you like. And I may not like the shoes that you chose, but you know what? They're not mine, they're yours. And it's your choice. And you may not like the shoes that I chose, but that doesn't make me a bad person. We both like shoes and we're both getting shoes and we both wear shoes. That's one of our commonalities, is that we all wear shoes most of the time. And so when we wear shoes, then that's something that we have in common. We may not like the same color. We may not like the same style, but we still are choosing shoes. And so respecting each other's right to choose, respecting each other's right to choose our own religion, respecting our right to choose our own tribe, respecting our right to choose our own friends, respecting our right to choose our own values, respecting our right to choose our own beliefs and our own thoughts. Our own beliefs and our own thoughts. When we respect the right to choose, that brings us into that place of unity. That brings us into that place of unity. And that also, when we do that, we are opening our hearts so that we can learn to, in this, give thanks also. In this, give thanks also. Give thanks for the right to choose. I give thanks that I have the right to choose the shoes that I want. I give thanks that I have a right to choose the life that I want. I give thanks that I have a right to choose the friends that I want. I give thanks that I have a right to choose where I want to live. I give thanks that I have a right to choose my religion, my spiritual beliefs, or whatever practices, or whatever the case may be. And I also give thanks that you have a right to do that also. It may be different than mine. It may be different. I may not believe the same thing you do, but I respect your right to choose. Now, I may not like the choices, as I said, but I respect your right to make those choices. And so long as you don't then begin to exercise your choice all over me, and I don't begin to exercise my choices all over you, that's how we learn to live in unity. That's how we learn to live together. That's how we learn to live in harmony. I don't expect you to like the same things I do. I don't expect you to choose the same things. And I don't want you to expect me to choose the same things that you choose. Yet I respect your right to choose. I respect your right to choose. And so that's how we come together on this journey to unity. That's how we come together on this journey to unity. And so as I talk about this, as I said, sometimes I can make it sound easy, and I know that it isn't always. The last thing I want us to keep in mind is to really give ourselves a break. Give ourselves a break. Embrace our moments when we fall short, and give ourselves a break. Sometimes we aren't always able to do that. Sometimes we don't always remember. Sometimes we don't always remember. that you have a right to choose or that the other person has a right to choose. Sometimes we don't always remember to look for the commonalities. And when we fall short and when we find ourselves judging or when we find ourselves labeling or when we find ourselves doing all that, then just take a breath, take a step back and embrace those moments that we fall short. Embrace our momentary lapses. And it's just like falling off the wagon. You get right back on and you fasten your seatbelt a little bit tighter. You fasten your seatbelt just a little bit more securely. And that's what we have to do as we move through this time, as we move through this life, as we move through this journey. And this is a journey of oneness, not a journey to oneness, because oneness is not a destination, oneness already is. And so this is the journey of oneness, and we have to constantly, it's like driving, we have to constantly make adjustments as we're going down the highway. If there's that center divide in the highway, we have to constantly make adjustments so we don't run into it, or so we don't run off on the shoulders or whatever. We're constantly making adjustments as we go down the road. And so as we are on this journey of oneness, we have to constantly make adjustments, because sometimes we get a little sleepy, we get a little tired, we pull out, we wobble off the road a little bit. And then we have to make the adjustment to come back on, to come back into that place of accepting each other as we are, to knowing that we are in that place of healing our sense of separation, that we're in that place of coming into that the oneness that we already are, the oneness that we live and move and have our being in. And so I invite you today to give thanks in all things and give thanks for the unity that we are experiencing. We give thanks in advance as though it's already taken place. And so to our litany of thanksgiving, I want us to add thanksgiving and giving thanks for unity, giving thanks for the unity that's all around me, giving thanks for the unity that is a part of my life, giving thanks for the unity in which I live, giving thanks for the expressions of unity that's coming from other people and everywhere. And so I invite you to just continue to be in a place of oneness, to walk this road of oneness easily and effortlessly and with open hearts and open minds. And so I'm going to invite you to take a breath now as we just begin to move into that place of prayer, that place of knowing that the oneness of life, the oneness, the one power, the one life, the one mind. And so turn within with me in this moment. As we turn within in this moment, just knowing that there is but one life, knowing that there is but one power, knowing that there is but one presence, one mind, one activity, one life, one activity, one breath, knowing that there's only one, and that one I choose to call God. But by any other name, it is the source of our being. That one is perfect. That one is my life. That one is a life of each of us. And so just knowing this truth, I speak the word for each of us. Just knowing that we are all one, we are each made in the image and likeness and out of pure spirit itself. That we are each whole, we are each perfect, we are each complete, just as we are. And so we release any sense of separateness. We release any sense of being separate from the one and being separate from each other or being separate from ourselves even. We just release all that. We release all that. And we just open ourselves up to that wholeness that already is, that oneness that already is. And as we do this, all things are made new. All things are made new. We release and let go of the judgment, of the fear, of the doubt. And we open up our hearts to love and to peace and to unity and to acceptance and to joy and to healing that sense of separation. I speak this word for anyone who is in need of anything this day. I know that God is showing up in each and every life as whatever it is that the need may be. God is showing up as abundance, as a prosperity, as love, as peace, as harmony, as oneness, as balance. God is showing up in each and every life. And we just open our hearts and just receive the healing that is available for each and every one of us. This word goes out to anyone who's affected by COVID-19, anyone who is affected by it in their own body temples, or who is affected by loss of a loved one, knowing that God is in the midst of everything. God is in the midst of the pain. God is in the midst of loss. God is in the midst of every situation, every circumstance, and that healing is happening everywhere, everywhere. I know that we are filled with compassion and love and ease and comfort and healing on every level of our being. This word goes out to anyone on this planet who needs a prayer this day, knowing that right where each of them is, the power and the presence of God is. And as the circle of prayer opens, I just pause momentarily so you may speak the names of anyone you'd like held in prayer. You may speak their names silently or loud, and you may speak them now. And so for all those whose names were spoken here this day, I know that right where each of them is, God is blessing and keeping them, and that healing is happening, and that all is well, for all is God. And so I simply say thank you, Father, Mother God, for the perfect manifestation of this word that's been spoken here this day. I know that all is well, for I know that all is God. And so it is.